Okay, so I have started the recording for today and I'm going to share the screen. You please let me know once you will be able to see my screen. Is it visible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Cool. Thanks for your response. So in continuation of yesterday's lecture, today we are okay. So before moving to the next lecture, so if any question from yesterday's session so far.
No, sir, we are good.
No, sir.
Suresh, Parveen.
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Well, in today's lesson, we are going to cover in little bit depth of overview of ESXi as an VMware hypervisor. Okay. So what we are going to see, describe the ESXi host architecture, navigate the direct console user interface, and discuss user account best practices, installing ESXi host, and configuring the ESXi basic settings that we say as native settings, what we need to do. Okay. All right. So when we say the basics of ESXi and the ESXi architecture, so now you people are familiar that ESXi is a VMware hypervisor, right? And that's we use for future purpose to putting an ESXi hypervisor on any of the physical host that is provided by the vendor and that is selected by the customer. Okay. And if you'll see from ESX as an hypervisor, its feature, it's very much secure. When we say secure, it's have host-based firewall. It means that once you will install ESXi somewhere in any physical server, okay, so that's have an security feature that's we call firewall. Firewall means is until unless ESXi will not allow you to access its services from somewhere you cannot access. Okay, that's a inbuilt firewall in your hypervisor, like like you see the firewall features in the operating system. So what do you mean by firewall? Simply, if you'll say the meaning of firewall, firewall could be a physical device or could be a set of security features that can be inbuilt any operating system. Like in Windows operating system, you will also the find of Windows firewall, in ESXi another operating system, and also firewalls comes as a separate physical device that primarily we use for protecting the overall data center environment. But firewall perspective, excuse me, firewall perspective, ESXi have its own feature, inbuilt firewall, we will say, okay, where we can allow or we can deny the traffic coming inside your ESXi. Okay. Then we say memory hardening. So when we say the term hardening, hardening means something you are going to harden. Harden means is something, I'm giving a simple example. If someone is coming your home, okay, so your gate is the first primary gate to enter in your home, correct? Then you can make some of the rules like you cannot speak these kind of words inside my home, you cannot abuse to anyone. So these are some of the hardened rules. You should be neat and clean, you should be hygiene, right? So and somewhere whatever communication is happening inside your home, that is secure, nobody is hearing outside the from your home. Same way, ESXi, whatever transactions are happening inside your ESXi memory, whatever data is being written here, okay, so that is always in a secure form. When we say secure form, if some hacker will try to access your ESXi host and he want to read your content, that's not possible, okay, because by default memory contents are in encrypted format, those are hardened by default. It's a kernel, its kernel is very secure. trusted, you can enable TPM also. When we say TPMs actually, TPM feature is associated with the motherboard of your hypervisor or any operating system. So inside the motherboard, there is a TPM chip always. When you enable the TPM feature, again, all my boot process, it secure my boot process always by encryption way. UEFI secure boot. So whenever your booting will start, anyway, normally when we see, there is two types of booting method: boot from BIOS, okay, and boot from UEFI. So UEFI is nothing, just an advanced form of your BIOS that secure again your overall boot process. Encrypted core dumps. When we say
Sir,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt, but we can see Google screen. Is there any PPT you are showing?
yes.
But we can see VMware Lab platform.
Yes, yes.
Keeping on describing. Okay, I'm sharing it again.
Sure.
Don't worry. You let me know. Now, can you see my slides?
Yes, now we can see.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you can see now, right?
Yes,
Right.
sir.
High security, host-based firewall. That's all features I was discussing about. Okay. Encrypted core dumps. So whenever any memory dumps generated, hard disk generated, so dumps are always secure. Small disk footprint. When we say small disk footprint, it is just a size of, it's a kind of 2 GB or something, like with the minimum hard disk size, like 8 GB is more than enough to install an ESXi hypervisor. Quick boot process. When we say quick boot process, it because just because of a small footprint of this hypervisor, as an if you compare its kind of operating system, it's again a type of operating system, but it's providing you the different functionality altogether, right? So due to small footprint, due to small set of, anyway, there is a number of features, but only hypervisor related. It is not a traditional operating system. You cannot install any Google there. You cannot install firewall or any, okay, because it's this ESXi hypervisor make for the specific purpose, correct? Quick, faster boot and patching, and installable on your local drive, local hard disk drive, or you can put even some pen drive itself. You can insert the pen drive, just make first boot device as in your pen drive also, USB drive, any remote SAN storage also. So there is small SATA DOM cards and diskless host. When we say diskless host, your ESXi hypervisor will be somewhere on remote host. That's also possible. So there is number of ways for putting ESXi hypervisor inside your environment, but typically most of the environment people use to install ESXi inside the local hard disk. Inside the local hard disk, when I say local, the hard disk which are directly connected in your ESXi host, right? So these are some of the key features of the ESXi hypervisor itself. All right. Okay, so let me clean up this slide for now. Moving to next, this is the same slide we have seen yesterday. The way you are going to access your ESXi hypervisor. There is number of ways you can browse your ESXi. So again, this is some physical server where you are going to install an ESXi that's going to utilize all these underlying hardwares. Then to provide the resources to the virtual machine, there is always a VMM. When we say VMM, VMM stand for virtual machine monitoring layer. Virtual machine monitoring. So when we say monitoring, it means that this VMM layer keep a tracking of the resources. What is the consumption? Like for an example, there is some application is running and randomly that require 2 GB to 3 GB of RAM. So what it will do, your operating system will inform to this VMM layer will inform to VM kernel, and this VM kernel take the memory pages from here and will assign to virtual machine. Okay, so VMM layer is primarily for monitoring the virtual hardware resources that is required, because the running VM here does not identify all of these components. The VM, because it's a software itself, it's a kind of software bundled with multiple features that only identify your hypervisor, and how your VM will talk to hypervisor VM kernel with the virtual machine monitoring layer. Okay, then
So this VMM is a feature of like ESXi, or when we
ESXi,
install. Okay,
ESXi
okay,
hypervisor, it's automatically inbuilt your VM kernel. Okay,
okay, okay.
so whatever the desired resource for your virtual machine, it keep on tracking and it will assign. But again, condition is on the base of availability. Okay, on the base of available free resource underline. Okay, if they are not actually resources, then your VM will get some error some morning. Sometime, for example, if your ESXi have free memory 2 GB for the time, 2 GB is free memory, not overall. Out of 1 TB, there is only 2 GB. But sometime you are trying to boot this virtual machine and this boot process itself require 8 GB. Then it will through a error in your vCenter server recent task. Sufficient resources are not available for to power on this virtual machine, and in this case your virtual machine get in power off state. I mean, it will hit your VMM layer will ask to VM kernel to give the 8 GB of memory, but if underline you will see only your hypervisor will see only 2 GB is free at the moment, it will not start that virtual machine, right? Now ESXi have inbuilt vSphere software deployment kits and application programming interface. API is always an layer that's provide communication between two different softwares when they are communicating. So this ESXi, how we can access it? Even yesterday I told you there is number of methods to directly access this ESXi. ESXi have inbuilt ESXi shell feature. ESXi shell feature. So what is ESXi shell? If here is your ESXi, you are accessing its direct console here. Okay, then you have to press Alt F1 key and you will go on the command line of this ESXi. Another way is vSphere host client. You will do HTTPS somewhere and you will get UI console. Another way is hardware management. So when we say hardware management port, it is kind of your management port. So like you have your ESXi here. Probably you remember yesterday I was telling you about something ID rack, Intel server, HP. So what you will do, you will access the ID rack console. Within ID rack console, there would be option to launch the remote console. Okay, so it will open the same console you are browsing locally by adding some host here. You are accessing directly to ESXi. So it will launch the remote KVM. The another method from CLI is you are going to access through Power CLI, vSphere CLI, vSphere client, direct console CLI through vCenter as well. So you will access your ESXi via vCenter, and vCenter can be further accessed by all these methods, right? So there is number of methods for accessing the ESXi. Normally, we always manage all ESXi tasks from vCenter server, but if in case there is some connectivity issue with the vCenter server, then we take the help of local console of that ESXi. Secondly, we always prefer to go UI in ESXi and check why this is not connected. There is some issue or something in network card or some connectivity issue. Then we try to do through ESXi shell or SSH. SSH is a software, a kind of putty. Probably you have heard it. Putty, you install it and you will just, when you will click IP address, you will find a command line interface again that is parallel to your ESXi shell. ESXi shell is something in a local console of ESXi, but when we say SSH, it is a remote method. Okay, like the host client is for UI and SSH is again for CLI method. If even you are not able to access SSH or CLI or something like that, you are not able to access that, then you will take the help of actual console through the hardware management port. So when I say hardware management port, it could be your ID rack, it could be your ILO, it could be your IPMI. So you can launch the remote KVM and you can see what actually is happened. Is it boot properly or there is some error or something like that? So this is our last step of troubleshooting to see the console. All right. So once our ESXi get installed, if you will ask me, boss, how ESXi front page looks like, that is like this. This is the local console. In the same way, you put your operating system. Okay. In how you access the operating system, if I'll talk about a simple physical server, so you will put it, but you will always have an monitor. Monitor will always for display, correct? Monitor is always for display. So in case of this server, this ESXi being installed somewhere in any physical server, so how you will see what's happening inside this? Always you will connect some monitor, right? Either locally, when we connect this locally, I can see this console. But when a customer environment is remotely, because in customer environment, you will not be always seated inside the data center and you will not be access the direct console. So this console name is DCUI. What is the console name? The console you are looking here, the welcome screen, that's called direct console user interface, correct? So how you can access it? Very first way is you can directly connect monitor, but in production environment where will you do work for some customer, it is via some internet. It is not directly. So if you are sitting somewhere and you want to see this console, how you will see? You will take the help of physical management port. Again, it could be Dell server ID rack, HP ILO, sometimes it's called ILOM as well, sometimes it's called IPMI. So these are the different names. So what you will do, by using this management IP address, whatever IP you have given, you will browse here, okay, on your desktop, on your remote laptop somewhere. Then you will browse the ID rack IP. You cannot directly launch the console still, okay? But within ID rack or within ILO or ILOM IPMI, you will get somewhere to launch the remote console, okay? So console would be same. I mean, within your laptop monitor, the console will be look like same, but it is somewhere you are accessing it remotely. Then we say this term as remote KVM port. Why KVM? Remotely you can insert any key through keyboard, video, mouse. Okay, if you are accessing it directly, that is local KVM, like the VGA port we connect in servers, and it is the remote KVM. So again, to access it somewhere, very first time, whatever is running inside this server, it is not a matter ESXi only. I want to see remotely what is running. So very first thing, we have to configure some IP addresses, some username and some passwords. Okay. Then I should have over the internet, I should have communication between this and this. Then I will be able to access this management port. Then next step, I will be able to see the console. What is actually, either there is nothing, that it will show you only the black screen, kind of booting, server booting process or something like that. Okay. But if in case ESXi is already installed there, then you will see this kind of screen. Okay. So console name is DCUI, but how you are accessing it? Either you are accessing it locally by some KVM or you are accessing it remotely. So very first time when you need to configure the ID rack IP, ILO or IPM, whatever the server vendor, you have to connect locally. First, you have to configure this management IP. Once management IP is configured, then you are free. Even again, I'm saying, even there is no ESXi, that does not matter, but you can launch the remote console. All right, you got it. So Now, I'll take you some of the options are available inside this console. So very first thing,
Sir, I have one question.
yeah,
So we will give two IPs when we are installing any ESXi. One is ESXi IP and another one is management IP, right?
yeah, I'm coming on that. Don't worry. I'm coming on that. By
Okay.
default, it's a IDRAC management port IP. And the welcome screen, you will find initially there would not be any IP. There would not be any host. When you will just install it, the IP would be 000 something or maybe some 169 name, no host name. So very first thing you have to, let us suppose you have installed an ESXi remotely. Now you are here. You are accessing this port from here. So very first time you will not get nothing. I mean, screen would be there, but no host name, no IP address. So you will press F2 key. Once you will press F2 key, it will ask you the username. Username is by default root creating during the installation. And during the installation, whatever password you have given, you will assign. So once you will boot login first time, then you will get this kind of screen. This is your first screen. Okay. The first tab will say configure password. It means that during the installation, for example, you have given some password like VMware @123. Now you say, boss, I want to change my password. I want to keep the password as per company policy. It could be VMware @123 exclamation or whatever you can change. Then configure lockdown. I'll talk detail about this option later. Configure management network. So this is the main console from where you will give the management IP. So now you will say, sir, you were telling me earlier there is management IP. Yes, that's an IP address of your physical management port. But this is the IP address of actually this IP you are giving inside the operating system. Okay. And inside the operating system means inside ESXi. Then it will ask you IP address, subnet mask, DNS IP, FQDN, all these stuff will be available inside this tab. So once you will configure management related setting, you will come here, and how you will go in the key by your keyboard arrow keys, up and down arrow keys. And if you go anywhere in enter, just enter key. Okay, then you have to restart. When I say test management network, so test management network means is you are testing your ESXi is accessible through network. So here you will give some gateway IP addresses, okay, or any DNS IP or any other server IP that is available in the same network where you have provided the management IP address, and it is a ping. You understand what is ping command, Suresh, in Windows Server? What we do through ping? Any idea? Ping is just for check IP to IP connectivity. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So same way, this test network is the ping. If I'll say the management restore option, it means that whatever changes we being done here, we have assigned IP, subnet mask, DNS, default gateway. So all these will be flushed out because we have restore. Keyboard language, nothing. Troubleshooting option, where we will configure the ESXi shell to troubleshoot locally, and the SSH if we want to access this server remotely. But when I will do SSH, will you be get same console? No, you will get a command line console there. You will put a root password and this, that would be command line interface, or within, if ESXi shell is the local command line interface. Okay, so what have you go in? If you will enable these services from troubleshooting options perspective, then you will press the Alt F1 key and you will automatically get, instead of this console will convert in a command line console automatically. Then you will press Alt F2 back to bring up back, then this console will back in case of ESXi shell. But SSH, when we do SSH is purely a remote console in a command line interface. Only you cannot do work anything in this UI. You cannot work anything in the UI portal of this server, only command line. Then system logs, you can generate the logs. Support information is just it will give you the VMware portal. If you want to raise some support with VMware with respect to troubleshooting, then reset system setting, it will take the factory default setting. When I say factory default setting, whatever changes you have made from here to here, it will reset all the sets. The same way you do your mobile as in factory reset. So when you do your mobile factory reset, your native OS is there, but there is nothing beside that, whatever setting you have done. Same way, if we'll do the reset system configuration, whatever changes I have made with respect to IP address, network, VLAN, everything will be flushed out and it will be a blank native hypervisor for you again. All right. So
Sir, it will go in previous state, or it's
yeah, it will
fresh
go in-
installation.
no, install. It will be installed. I mean, ESXi would be available there, but these settings, what you changes, okay, all the setting will be flush out.
Okay, when we install ESXi on that mode, it will go, or not. Suppose someone will
Correct.
change the IP address
Yeah, post installation, the
post installation.
welcome screen will be available there.
Okay.
ESXi will not flush out. Only its setting will flush out.
Okay. Suppose someone changed the IP address 2 days back. It will go on that mode, or this is my question.
No. Even nothing. It will go in native. No IP will be there.
No IP.
No host
Okay.
name, no IP, no DNS, nothing. It will not
Okay.
revert back the setting. It will
Default factor setting.
default
Whatever.
setting. Correct. Default setting. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Whatever setting you have made, first time, second time, third time, there would not be nothing. Okay. So when we configure the management, we'll give the host name, we provide IP address, we give DNS, NTP and all. Every time we change anything in network part, we have to do restart the management network, test it. Okay. If everything is fine, then you would be able to do SSH. You will be able to access on host client. You will be able to connect to vCenter server because you have put the native. So once we will prepare any ESXi host, these are some native setting we have to do just one time. Later on, if we can access through HTTPS this, I want to make any changes, all the settings, I can make through UI itself. So when I need to come back on this DCUI console, only I have to monitor and I have to check if I am not able to access it through vCenter, I am not able to do HTTPS and all, then only we will take the help of the ESXi cell or SSH, or by XYZ reason even I am not able to do SSH, then I have to jump back in this DCUI console. So how I will jump back in this DCUI console? Again, I will access through IDRAC and I will launch the remote console and I will check whether there is this screen is showing or some error it is showing, it is not booting or something like that. So during that troubleshooting, I have to come back on this option again to check it. Okay.
Okay, sir. Sir, in case if we change the DNS, a reboot restart is also required if we are changing the DNS.
Yeah, whenever we will make any changes from configuration management network tab, whatever is available, we have to restart the management network to pick the new settings.
Or is it will impact its running virtual machine on this server?
No,
ESXi?
no,
No
nothing.
impact.
Nothing. So if let us suppose here you have this IP address and on your vCenter server, you have the IP 10.55, but tomorrow you have changed it 172.20.10.53, for example. So your vCenter will automatically detect and it will automatically reconnect the host. But next time, if you will browse it through host client, use this new IP address. But if in case you have changed some another class like this, for example, but this subnet is not routed, is not make routing between this subnet, if they are not communicating by XYZ reason, due to some network other, due to some VLAN, then your host will be automatically disconnected from your vCenter server, because your vCenter network cannot talk with this network. But again, if on the network layer, the routing being configured between this subnet and this subnet, you can reconnect it back. Okay, if both the subnets are not talking with each other, then it will be in disconnected mode from vCenter. But yes, still you will be able to access it from host client through SSH or through PuTTY as a individual host. Okay, but not through vCenter server. Okay, but again, if you have done routing between this network and this network, then you will be able to connect it back to vCenter server. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So troubleshooting option, what I tell, SSH and ESXi shell is by default disabled. To enable it, we have to enable it, and also we can set a timeout value. When I say timeout value, for example, somewhere you have SSH to this host and you are working something and you forget to close that window. So what will happen? It will keep on running. Someone can, if someone have access on your laptop or desktop, he can make drastic changes there. So if a connection in ideal state, like for example, more than 5 minutes, you can set out timeout value. So it will be automatically logged out from the SSH session. Okay. Same way for ESXi cell, we can set the same way for DCUI. DCUI means, for example, you are working something here by XYZ region. But if I set a time of 5 minutes, ideal time, after 5 minutes, it will go back to your welcome screen for the boot window. So in this way, we can set the timeout values. All right. So again, this DCUI console only for doing some initial basic settings. Later on, you can browse this ESXi through host client or through vCenter. For example, here, this is one of the ESXi which is connected. This is my vCenter server console. Okay, it is connected to vCenter and it is just trying to show you the firewall. So under firewall, all these service can be allowed or can be denied on the basis of my requirement for that port. Then user account. So as I tell, by default in ESXi, root is the default admin account for the ESXi. Normally you will see the the operating systems or the hypervisor is based on Linux platform. The default username by default go root, and probably you have seen in Windows, what is default username? Administrator always, correct? So my ESXi kernel is based on Linux. That's why its default name is root, and the password whatever you have configured. Later on, once your initial setup being configured is done, then you can assign number of users from, like for active in your Windows domain environment, you have number of users, user 1, user 2, user 3. You can assign all these users as a permission to work in your ESXi host. Okay, you can assign the additional user accounts from some identity source. Like for example, my Microsoft Windows Active Directory is an identity source. When I say identity source, here we can create number of users. So that is not your headache, how to create a node. Your headache would be if you need to assign some permission, ask for AD user, okay, and assign the permissions to your ESXi host. Okay. Whenever you give the permission, that's fine, but still your root will be the admin. If you know the root credentials, then you don't require it. All right. Well, there is another service that's play an important role in any of the environment we are working. We required a time server.
Sir, one question is
Yes, yes.
regarding integration. Yeah, you are talking this. We need to integrate ESXi host into domain, or we will join vCenter
Well,
into domain.
there is two things. I'll talk it later in detail. There is a single sign-on service in your vCenter server. Okay.
Okay.
So once my host will add into vCenter server, so In vCenter server, there is many inventory. vCenter server console itself inventory, then data center, then cluster, then host. So for all those inventory, I will get a tab of permission always. Permission, permission, permission. Any permission I'll give on top level, that will be inherited automatically for all these components. But if I want to give to specific user specific permission to host only, you will select your respective host and you will assign any permission to your Active Directory user itself. Okay. So in that case, you have to integrate your single sign-on services with outsider world Active Directory.
Okay, through the vCenter.
Yes, correct.
Okay, sir, got it.
Well, here is a small demonstration that will help you to install the ESXi operating system. So, but before that, there is number of things we have to keep in mind if we are going to install any ESXi hypervisor. Just assume a scenario, a customer have a data. So from prerequisite perspective, first of all, we need to validate my all ESXi is racking and stacking is properly, is networking is done properly. That will be verified by network team, connectivity and all. And racking and stacking, when I say it is properly fit in the remote data center into a specific rack. Okay. Networking perspective, it all cables being connected with the properly network switches, its management port. The next come is its management port, and its management port being connected to the always your production switch are different from the network switch. So there would be a separate port. Again, I am repeating it. It's a management port, kind of your ID rack, ILO RAM, ID rack, ILO IPAM, that will go to management switch. Okay. Then you will configure management port is properly configured. IP address is being given to that. So that all activity will be done for you for the readiness, the people who are working inside the data center. Okay. Then next thing, you should be okay from hardware requirement perspective, definitely. So running a ESXi, there is two things. One is we required some hardware specifications from running ESXi only, but is it enough to run the, like for example, some CPU, some memory, some hard disk, network and blah blah stuffs. But if a ESXi, it is not required the hardware resource only for execute ESXi, because in future on this ESXi, probably you need to run 50 more virtual servers. So that is something we have to consider. So installing ESXi doesn't mean that you will just fulfill the requirement from ESXi perspective. Also, that should have ample amount of hardware resources in future to assign to your virtual machine. But yeah, definitely there should be minimum hardware requirement only for installing. So it always prefer there should be a dual CPU environment. Then to put an hypervisor, 16 GB RAM, 8 GB of hard disk, and yeah, definitely at least there should be one NIC connectivity available from top of rack switch and another NIC connectivity management where I am accessing it. Okay. All right. So that's all thing should be ready from readiness perspective. Then probably you will get a separate Excel for doing the initial level of configuration for this ESXi host. What initial level of configuration? What IP you have to give? What is the IP means first IP, that is the management IP. But again, this management IP is different from this. This is your hardware management IP. This is your ESXi management IP that I saw right now in DCUI console. Then what is the VLAN? What is the fully qualified domain name? Do you understand fully qualified domain name? That would be your ESXi host name plus the DNS name. It could be like that, ESXi1.vmlab.com, kind of that. So it will always have a local name of device plus the DNS name. that is FQDN. So the I have to start this SSH service or not. So these are some basic things you have to be ready within your ESXi template, right? And also the important thing is the hardware which is purchased by your vendor. Like for example, I am going to install here ESXi 7.0. So from hardware compatibility perspective, all hardware firmware, you understand, firmware is a set of hardware drivers. Those are up to date and those are support to your ESXi servers. Correct? Get my point? So all these are the prerequisite. Rack and stack, networking is proper done, ID rack management IP along with username and password because you are accessing remotely somewhere. Then all my hardware requirement is fulfilled. From the basic setting perspective, its IP address, is FQDN, NTP address, DNS address, services which I need to run. So these all are the basic things. And the primary thing, when you will access it through ID rack or remote console, very first thing we have to check the hardware health. When I say hardware health, within ID rack console, you will see all my CPU, memory, network, all are in health. My server in a healthy state. There is no problem in that. All right. And my hardware or firmware version is up to date, or that is supported that is required for my hypervisor version. Then I need an Excel sheet for the basic parameter. Then as a next step, what I will do is, once my ESXi is, I have checked all parameters is okay from the installation perspective. Now the team which is locally working, they said, yeah, everything is fine. So you have to access this remote KVM console by using the physical management IP address. Once you will there, here you will see a console. Simple, like a server is booting up. Some black screen will come, some with white text. So for that ESXi, you will keep your image ready locally somewhere in your laptop or some your desktop. You have to mount that here in a remote console. So remote, see, when you will access through physical IP address, that will be an ID rack port. In ID rack, you will get number of information, but out of them, there would be a tab for launching the remote console. So you will launch the remote console. You will see what actually is happening inside this server. You will map your drive and you will just restart your ESXi host. Once you will restart your, sorry, it is not ESXi host so far, it is a physical server. It will start to boot from your ESXi ISO. So then you have to follow some basic steps to make it ready. Once it will be ready, a gray and black screen will come. Then you will start to do the basic settings, IP address, management VLAN setting, DNS setting, at least the part so that you can access it through. Once it's installed, you do the basic setting, then you just do HTTP from your laptop. You will just do HTTPS and put the management IP that you have configured for ESXi management. This time not this, this time this, do HTTPS, access it, and you will be able to access the host client. So from that host client, rest of the settings you can take care there. Host client will give you a UI interface, but that would be different, not actually your DCUI console. Then if you want to add your ESXi into this, you want to enable or disable services, that all you can perform through UI interface. When I say UI interface, it will come through HTTPS. It is not your gray and black screen. It is your screen. You are accessing ESXi would be there. Its services like that. I'm just going to show you. Don't worry about that. How it will look like. Okay, so let us do some hands-on. I just ping you a URL. If you guys have an VMware account, you can launch the vSphere, this labs.hol.vmware.com. From there, you just search from this vSphere and just launch this lab, virtualization introduction. How you will launch it? You will just enroll, just give your ID. You have registered yourself on VMware. It could be your official ID or it could be your non-official ID as well. Okay, log in here. So you will be able to launch this particular lab. Once you will do a start lab, some of the lab on real basis, some of the labs are simulation basis. Simulation means it will just keep you instructing and you will press any key from the keyboard and you will be, automatically the credentials will be got it there. So here is some, initially there is some theoretical slides that we are just discussing upon. And the very first simulation lab, it show you how to install the ESXi. Okay, a lab is launching here, don't worry about that. So here is first lab. So for this one, in this lab, you will go to page number 19. So there is a small lab that just keep it as is. It will be running for the future hands-on perspective. Launch here, interactive simulation. So once you will launch on interactive simulation, it is this lab is showing you from the step. Once you have insert the ISO and you have rebooted that server, and that server is booted from the ESXi ISO. All these pre-works is done already here. So when I say simulation, you just follow these instructions. Enter a key to boot from media. So once it will boot from, it is starting to boot from ESXi installer, press the enter key. So you see here is the enter. I'll press enter. So your screen will look like this once you will start the ESXi installation. All right, press enter to continue the installation. You will just press your laptop enter key, press F11 key from your laptop, press enter, accept the license agreement. So here there may be number of drives available, but it would be your document on which drive you have to install the ESXi. You will select that particular drive only. Okay, language.
Sir, it will ask if
Hello.
we mounted the ISO. It will show.
Yes.
Can you sir go back once, please? It will.
Sir is
show
on
you.
call.
Oh,
He's
okay.
on call. Yes, it will show.
It will show.
Yes.
Okay, if we are mounted ISO or if we inserted your bootable pen drive.
Yes.
It will ask,
When you
It
will
will
go
show everything what is connected. Don't worry about that. Okay.
Okay, sir.
But it is the simulation based lab, man. I cannot go back here. Okay.
Okay.
Either I have to start this lab again, this simulation tab again. Okay. But yes, definitely it will show all the available storage, hard disk, pen drive, whatever you have inside this. Okay. If you have a remote LAN, it will show remote disk.
So
I'll keep language as US default, root password. So you have to type VM this password here. But again, as I said, it is a simulation lab. You will press any key. It will automatically take the values, what is written there. I'm just pressing any key, one key. Okay, F11 to install. So I'll press F11 key. I'm just following this one. Okay. So I am here. For installation, press F11 key. I have pressed. Anyway, even if you will not press F11, you will press any key. That's fine. Enter to reboot. So once I'll enter to reboot. So it means that my installation being completed, and now this host is, this is a ESXi boot process now. I mean, installation is complete, but in real environment, it will take some time. It will not do very quick. 5 to 10 minutes it take, right? So when installation is completed, it will be automatically boot from your bootable device. All right. So this would be your first screen. That case, I just tell you now, there would be some DHCP IP. Then it is telling you to do some native configuration. Okay. As it is simulation lab, simulation based lab, you cannot click on your desire. You need to only follow the steps being given here. I am here. So always I'll press F2 key to boot. So root is the default username, password. Again, you don't need to type exact word, just press any key because it is simulated lab. Configure management network. Under this tab, you will go network adapter where you will see there is 4 physical NICs are available, but out of them, I am giving a IP to this VMNIC 1. There would be what will happen? I'll show you in details. There would be a virtual port will get connected. That's called as management port that will be associated with this first physical NIC by default. Okay. So it said you can press space bar. Okay. And if I'll press space bar, then VMNIC 2 will be selected and press enter. Then for IP configuration, use VLAN. Normally, we don't put any VLAN for the management network ever. Then IPv4 configuration, you will click here and you will select the static IP. When you want to select anything, you just press space bar. Go to IPv4 and put the desired IP, what it is given. If you will ask me, sir, how you are putting, because it is a simulated base lab, again, I am saying, you just go that option, press any key, it will take automatically value. All right. Then press enter. I have pressed enter. Then it is asking for DNS configuration. I'll go to DNS. How? By pressing the key. DNS, use static and put the values here. Okay, these are the values. And press tab key. So tab key will take you back. And again, I said, whenever you will do any change in management network, it will always restart. Okay. So what I did is I just follow these things. Test the management network. Under test management network, it will automatically pick your gateway IP address and DNS IP address. Once you will press OK, you should get OK. Reply back. It means that whatever IP you have given, you are able to ping your DNS IP and you are able to ping your gateway IP. It means that now your host is part of network. As a next step, what you can do, this lab is up to this here. Okay. But yes, there is another options also available. So once you will done the basic setting of this, you would be able to do the HTTPS and host IP address. Then you will be able to access UI console. When I say UI console, it will not look like that. There would be different. There would be lot of other settings available. All right. Now I am going to back to my actual lab. So if there is no lab simulated, then you have to go one by one. Like now, this lab is telling you how you will log in a host in host client. Host client means is the UI of that ESXi. So for that, what it is telling you now, it is not a simulated, it is the actual lab you have to perform here in this environment. This lab is already made by you, by VMware for you. So I'll press Google Chrome. Now you have whatever credential is asking, you have to give the actual credential. So there is one ESXi host that is being considered. It's already installed and with basic setting. I'll click here. It is just an uplink. This is just an hyperlink in Google Chrome. You will put the username. So this time you have to press the actual key or you have to type, or second way what you can do is you can pick from here these values and by hand you can drag here. This is the way of doing this actual, or you can type from actual keyboard. And but this time you have to press the right keys, whatever is written here. So once you will log in into host client, so in continuation, you can assume the host we have built, that name was ESX3A. This is the next step. For now, this is in maintenance mode. Leave it. Don't worry about that. It could be in maintenance mode. But here, in simulation lab, you are forced to do only the steps. But here, you can click anywhere. You can check the options. However, you need to follow the step what SQL is doing. But again, if you want to see any other setting, because it is allow you to see all the settings. Okay. So if I'll go to host, the very first tab, it is telling me the host name. It is telling me the build number. It is in maintenance mode. That is fine. Okay. It could be without non-maintenance mode. If I want to reboot, refresh, I can take the actions. If I'll go to manage system, under system, there is number of settings are available. For setting NTP, I have to go date and time. Some NTP server is being configured here. Don't change these settings. Okay. Hardware perspective, what is available? It is showing you. Licensing perspective, there is license being assigned. Yes. What all packages, what all services being running here. You can check the service status. So this tab is very important. Whenever like my host is not connected to vCenter by XYZ region, then I have to come here and I have to check the service status. Okay. Then monitor tab is just telling about the hardware status here, any event or any task. So when this tab will be helpful to do initial level of basic setting. And the next thing is whenever my host is not connected to vCenter server, it is showing disconnected state. My next step would be login host with the FQDN or IP address by using host client and check the problem, whether some problem with network and some problem with the storage. It will show the running virtual machines here. Okay. So what you need to do, at least you follow all the tabs under the host client. Okay. So what is your task for today is you just cover the up to page number 30, this lab up to page number 30. All right. So are you all able to access this lab?
Yes, sir.
Suresh, what about you?
Yes, sir.
Oh, sounds good. Yeah. Improving well. So first of all, let me know if any question around it, what all things we need to do. The very first important question in the any interview, how you will install an ESXi. They will ask from scratch. So scratch perspective, what all step I told you during the discussion. So maybe you can make a note and I'll ask you tomorrow. What is prerequisites perspective? All the things we need to keep ready before installing an ESXi. All right. If a customer will make a request. So from where to where you have to do the lab today? From page number 17 to page number 30. Okay. All right, guys.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So you do the labs. If in case any challenge or something, you can ping me over the WhatsApp group. All right. But it's pretty easy. It's not only you just follow these steps, whatever, you can check all the settings, what is available here for your familiarity. Just click each and every option, read about that, what this tab is saying, what this tab is saying, what this tab is saying, right? So like if I'll take an example, you want to change the DNS setting from here. Can you do that? Yes, absolutely you can do that. You want to do NTP setting change, you can do here. You want to change the host name, you can also change. Whatever you were doing in DCUI console very first time, now everything you can change from here. But there is some restricted setting in this HOL. In live environment, you can change, but not here. Because if you will change the IP address and you will try to access, it will not access. Because for that, some routing and some parameters need to be configured. Correct? So see all the settings, create VM, shutdown. Don't do shutdown reboot at least. Okay, permission is tab, support bundle, get SSH for Chrome. That's an option. What is networking happen? What is available storage for now in this host? So there is no additional storage available, right? Networking perspective, what we have configured, there is some networks being configured already that will talk in detail, but once you will do first time, you should get this management network, vMotion and all that we will talk later. Don't worry about that. Okay, so go through with simulation based lab as well as this actual lab, page number 17 to page number 30. This is your homework for today, and tomorrow we'll be continuing the next module, that is for your vCenter. Let me check whether that is vCenter or first virtual machine. Next module we will talk about the vCenter servers, how we will use, how we'll manage and all. All right, guys.
All right, sir.
I'm stopping the sharing for now. So you guys at least perform the lab, and tomorrow I will check all these steps from your side. I'll take a quick mock test. What are the possible console you are accessing it from scratch, how you will build your ESXi, and from where you will do the basic setting. For example, I will let you know you have to change NTP, where you will go. You have to change the DNS settings. You have to stop and start particular service, from where you will take that action. Correct?
Correct, sir. Correct.
Yeah. So the slides are already with you. Recording I will share with you just finishing up this call. All right. So tomorrow are we okay to connect? Tomorrow we all are okay to connect?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Yeah. See you guys then. Yeah. Let's meet again tomorrow at same time.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Bye bye.
Okay.